Om Ajnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakayam Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this summer in Germany. Very warm. Today I would like to share a verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the Canto 5, chapter 19, verse 1. Sri Sukha Vacham Kim Purusha-varsha Bhagavatam Adi Purusham Lakshmanajam Sita Viramam Ramam Tacharana Sankiravirita Paramahavato Hanuman Saha Kim Purusha-avirata Bhaktir Upaste. So here Sri Shukadev is saying, my dear king, in Kim Purusha-varsha, it's an ancient region of the Himalayas area, the great devotee Hanuman is always engaged with the inhabitants of the land in devotional service to Lord Rama, the elder brother of Lakshmana and dear husband of Sita Devi. In this chapter, and mainly in the consecutive verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam, is Lord Hanuman praising Ram, his beloved Rama. He's, as we know, always engaged in devotional service to the Lord Ram. But what is very nice of this chapter, actually, is that in every verse that he's praising the Lord, actually he's giving a reason why to praise him. He gives like 10 reasons or 10 praises why Rama is so amazing that actually deserves the worship of his bhaktas. So mainly recently I got involved in a conversations with some friends here in the ashram about why we worship our God-realized master, Guruji, right? And reading this verse makes me realize, because there is many explanations why we do it, but in this one, I select 3 verses where Hanuman is explaining why he is worshipping Rama. The first one, Hanuman says, incarnated as a human being, he was not only there as the Almighty One to kill the demon Ravana, but also as the one instructing the mortal of this material world. So this reason is like he's not only killing the demons when he incarnates Lord Rama and also teaching people. I think it's more or less the same, because all of us in our mind, we have a Ravana. Ravana, the 10-head demon, he represents all the bad qualities of the mind, like arrogance, pride. And this negative mind, this negative part of the mind, represented by Ravana, is being challenged by Lord Rama. And at the same time that he's challenging these qualities, he's teaching us. So I got the enormous blessing of traveling with Guruji to Latin America a time ago, 1 year ago, actually now. And we were in a restaurant. For some reason, my service was quite bad at that moment. And so it was not really about the service, actually it was the state of my mind. I couldn't stop judging Guruji inside of me. And he used any excuse that he has to keep challenging my mind. So more anger keep rising up. Anger, frustration, fear, one after the other. So we are in these restaurants, like 50 people, and I feel, you know this moment that you say, I cannot anymore with this. And after being challenged by Guruji, I just went outside to breathe some air because it was too much. I said, okay, I stop here. I'm near to my country, so I just take a flight and I come back home, right? And what happened? Guruji came out when I was in this mental process. And he said, we exchanged some words, and he said, like, how do you feel? And I said, well, I feel like killing someone right now. And he said, oh, really? To who? Luckily, I didn't continue my thought. I didn't put it into words, but it was clear. And so he looked at me, he smiled, and he said, you know, I'm draining you from emotions. And in this moment, everything makes sense, what he's doing. Of course, he's teaching me the spiritual path is to become strong, right? To endure. But somehow I forgot. All the time I forget about that. And he says, okay, so this is the reason why I'm doing it. And then he just like blinked his eyes and everything came back like before, like, okay, let's continue with the training. So he just came back inside. And after telling me this, like 2 minutes before, I go inside behind him. He turns to a Swami that was inside and he says, oh, look, we have a Ravana here, pointing at me, of 7 heads. So in a way I was happy because it means that I have 3 heads cut it already or at that moment, but still 7, like it's a lot. But he keep challenging. He keep challenging my mind. So of this first verse that Hanuman is saying why to praise Rama, why to not to worship this being, this Guruji, that is more concerned than myself to kick out the Ravana seated on my head and to give me transcendental knowledge to free me from Maya. This is the reason number 1. The second verse that Hanuman is saying about Ram is, it is not one's birth, one's fortune, one's eloquence, one's wit, or one's physique that creates the satisfaction of the greatest one. Even accepted as his friend as the forest dwellers who miss all the qualities. Sorry, I didn't read properly, but basically he says that Rama doesn't care about your status. He really don't care about that. And I can see with Guruji many times, I would say now, mainly more now that I'm in proximity with him. I will not say close to him because that's something different, but in proximity with him, you can see how he can treat good or bad to a rich person, an old lady, or a cute little kid with the same harshness or the same cuteness, indifferent of their status, their social status. And with people that I would say, I will not share even 5 minutes with this person because I will feel like I'm losing my day, my time, you see actually that Guruji spent time with them. And after a while, he's taking this sweetness inside of that person, he bring it up. So for him, it's not about this outside reality that we see. He's all the time committed with something else, with ourselves. So outside, we think the status is important. But for Guruji, that doesn't mean anything at all. And I remember sometimes when I came here for the first time, that he spent time with me, he gave me advices. I came completely destroyed by Maya, in a way. No success, no status. I was completely lost. Even if I conquered somehow the world outside. But actually not. I came completely drained of energy, needing shelter from the world. So in the moment that I fed up with everything, I didn't have any eloquence or anything. I was completely lost. Guruji showed me with his mercy, right? And he bring me up again. He helped me to stand up. So why not to be grateful with that person that actually took me from the floor, give me his hands, lift me up, and is teaching me again how to walk. The third reason that I choose, Hanuman is saying, he whose glories are inconceivable shows his causeless mercy there to those who aspire self-realization and practice austerities that are conducive to the religion, the spiritual knowledge, the detachment, the yogi mastery, the control over the senses, and the freedom from false ego. So this is all what we are doing actually in our spiritual path, as brahmacharis and as people, as a non-brahmacharis or devotees. In a satsang in 2015, Guruji speaking about Hanumanji says, because someone asked, who is the Shakti of Hanuman? And Guruji was upset. He says, he has no Shakti, he's a brahmachari. He's Shakti himself, and because he married Rama. And especially for us as brahmacharis, but also for everyone. Everyone who is looking for this detachment from this reality, to master the yoga, to try to control the senses. Even if we keep failing, right? The control of the senses is not so easy that you do it in just a click. It takes a time and a lot of failures for reach there. And what is saying here, his causeless mercy. Like, there is no reason why Guruji is doing it. It's not because nothing. He just do it out of goodwill to all of us. He gave us the chance. He even accept to us, the brahmacharis, all our karma from past lives. He's taking it on him to take us there with God. So he's forgiving all the time any kind of offense that we do, trying to be a better version of ourselves. It reminds me to India, like 2 years ago. I was serving Guruji for the first time in India. And in this country, before you put your dhoti, you need to grab his asana. That's the first thing that you have to have with you all the time. It doesn't matter anything else, but whenever you are with Guruji, you have his asana, because he's walking around and meeting people, and you need to be ready to put the asana before he sits. So we were traveling after a long, long day, visiting, I don't know, thousands of temples. I was dizzy. I couldn't anymore with myself. It was like 10:30 in the night in the bus in the middle of a deadly road. And suddenly, I would say like 3 kilometers away, we can see some lights. And Guruji suddenly is like walking up, and he says, oh, it's a Hanuman temple. You couldn't see anything, just some lights in very, very far away. But Guruji somehow got excited. So I say, okay, a new temple now. And so we arrived. The temple was huge, and was not so many people there. So Guruji grabbed me as his best friend. We start walking. He's super excited. We go inside. People, we left them behind. We go to the entrance of the temple. They let us pass, even if I think was closing. And when we get to the before the Mula Standam, like where the deity is, the pujari mysteriously let us pass inside. Like, that's also not common. Normally you stay outside. But they saw Guruji, immediately they opened the door, they let him pass in. And there is a big tree over there, painted in orange, with some deities down. And Guruji is so amazed by this tree. As it's like, it's just a tree, you know. But Guruji is just walking around it and looking at it. So, the pujari gave us some piece of the tree, actually. And Guruji says, like, there is something really, really special about this place. So we go out, and he says, let's try to find someone here that explain us the story of this place. So we go, we find kind of an acharya of the place, and the acharya decides to invite to Guruji for a tea. And in that moment, in my mind is, I don't have the asana. So the acharya invited Guruji to sit. He put the chair, and Guruji is looking at me like, okay, so now your turn. And I just grab my shawl that I have on me, I fold it, and I put it And there, and Guruji say like, what is this? And I say, I'm sorry, I forgot the asana. And of course, he was strict because, as we say in the first verse, he needs to correct our actions. But one of the things that he says actually is like, you will never travel with me again after the whole training process. And funny enough, 2 months later, he took me again to Latin America trip. So even if at that moment he needs to cut some qualities to help me to improve myself, his causeless mercy is always there. Is always giving us another chance because we are trying it to make a better version of ourselves. Then in the Latin American trip, I do the same mistake. Actually, I put his asana that was on the stage. I put it down on the level of on the floor level. That's what also was I don't learn. But then after that, I learned, yeah. So, as a conclusion, why I worship my guru? Well, everyone worships something. I have already worshipped my job, my boss, my ex-girlfriends, my best friends, my favorite rock star. All of them, they will love to have my worship, that power that the ego loves of having people attention. No one of them really deserves it. On the other hand, Guruji is the only one that doesn't need it. He's the master of the self. He is rejoicing in himself. But instead, out of humility, he accepts our seva and worship. And it's because through our worship and seva to him, we become free. And he, Guruji, is paying the price of our actions. He is absorbing and transforming all our sorrow and pain and giving us freedom. So I found this a beautiful way how Hanuman explained why he worshipped Lord Rama. Jai Gurudev.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Pralahada Ladadayi.